Cronenbourg 1664. Sponsor du Tour de France.
Peter Ugrimov continued his amazing journey through the Alps, his second win in as many days, and this time he enjoyed the rare pleasure of making big-time gains over Miguel Indurain. But Indurain still leads this tour. Ugrimov is up to second, and the Italian Marco Pantani is third. Hello again and welcome. The Tour de France is now rolling away from the Alps for a first ever stage finish here on the shores of the Lac de Saint-Point. Now, barring an accident, of course, Miguel Indurain will win his fourth Tour de France. His name will go alongside the other Tour greats, Eddy Merckx and Jacques Anquetil, who also won the race 4 times straight. So, with this race seemingly won, we asked Miguel if he had any further ambition for the season.
No, depende cómo acabó el Tour de Francia, si acabó fatigado o con problemas de salud o cualquier cosa. Si acabó bien, preparamos el récord de la hora y después de intentarlo, la preparación sería para el Campeonato del Mundo de contrarreloj. Si no hago o si acabo el Tour mal, sigo la preparación de otros años para el Campeonato del Mundo y Vuelta a Cataluña, clásicas de final de temporada o cualquier otra cosa.
Well, there's talk this morning that Indurain may well go for Graham O'Brie's world hour record in August, and he could well choose the stadium at Bordeaux, where Chris Boardman broke the record first of all about a year ago, before O'Brie beat that. That should be very interesting. The route today, 208.5 kilometres. It rolls away from Morzine, goes up the Col de la Fosile, just above the Swiss frontier there, and then continues on to the finish at the Lac Saint-Point. And the rollout this morning, the riders leaving Morzine, the town they passed through just before they went up the climb of Voriaz during yesterday's mountain time trial, which proved so successful for this man, Peter Ugrimov, now set to finish second in Paris.
The changeable weather of the Alps will stay with us as the race passes through showers in overcast conditions, and temperatures today will be no higher than 22 degrees Celsius.
And on the first climb today, what a tight one it was too, after 80 kilometres on the Côte de Collonges. Peter de Klerk getting it very narrowly ahead of Jörg Müller and Michel Dernisse. And still happily ensconced in the peloton today, John Tarlan, now set to finish the last man in this year's Tour de France. He rides along 3 hours, 39 minutes and 3 seconds behind Miguel Indurain, but he's still in the Tour. And on the other mountain, the Col de la Fosile, the last major climb of this year's Tour de France, that came at 119.5 kilometres. This time, Peter de Klerk getting more points and much more advantage he had too over Perini and Michel Dernisse and Richard Virenque, who's looking set now to be the king of the mountains in this year's race. And as we move along the road a little bit now to the small climb, which isn't what they call a prime climb in the Tour de France, there's no prize at the top of La Chapelle-des-Bois, but the riders are remaining all together. Eros Poli, it can't be too difficult, Paul, if Eros is still with the peloton.
Well, I think today there's been a serious truce in the main field, because it's been such a hard Tour de France now, and these riders can see Paris almost at the end of the tunnel, and they've hardly raced at all over the first 3 hours of today's race. But as we get slightly closer to the finish, I'm sure that their attacks will start to come, because this is the last chance for a lot of riders to get a stage victory.
Well, it'll be interesting as they roll away from the top of the climb here. The scenery in this area is absolutely stunning. The riders have skirted right around the Swiss frontier this year, rather than go through the Swiss countryside, and now they're swinging away from the Col de la Fosile, which is the main col in France. If you're driving overland down into Geneva, it's the long descent which takes you into that city. The riders have got that behind them now, and men like Abdou Japarov in the green jersey down in the centre of the peloton there, he'll be feeling very, very happy now that all the mountains are behind him. Here's Thierry Marie. He's had his moments this year, even on the climbs.
Well, I think he's had one of his best ever Tour de France's, and the fact that he was in the front when we went to the Alpe d'Huez was quite a thing for him to think back about in his career. It must be quite strange for Thierry Marie, a non-climber like I was myself, seeing people like Miguel Indurain coming by him on the climb up to Alpe d'Huez. But as you can see, the main field at the moment spread all the way across the road, setting a nice pleasant tempo. They won't start to attack until we get a little bit close to the finish today. The French Castorama team there on the front, that was Francois Simon, who's riding alongside Thierry Marie. In fact, they lost their man Armand de las Cuevas, who was hoping to get onto the podium in Paris. Actually just hung on a little bit too much, and I think he was always riding over and above himself, especially in the mountains.
Well, I wonder if he'll be treated to a big sprint today, or whether, in fact, Olaf Ludwig will finally get the stage win. He was threatening to win a stage in that opening week. He got 3 second places, but he couldn't quite get his bike over the line first. Well, they'll look to help him out now. The team's had a very good tour through the Alps, the Telecom team from Germany, with Udo Boltz rising up to 9th overall in the general classification, and that for him is going to give him the finest ever finish in a Tour de France. It seems that Castorama put 2 of their men at the front here. As we swing around a little bit to look at the polka dot jersey there of Richard Virenque, must be bitterly disappointed about his ride yesterday, which sent him out of the top 3 overall, but he'll still make the podium in Paris as the winner of the King of the Mountains, and he really has come of age this year in the Tour de France.
I really think that both of those riders from Festina, the French riders Virenque and Luc Leblanc, felt that they were definitely going to go onto the podium, and the superb rides done by Pietro Ugrumov yesterday and Marco Pantani just pushed them off. But the French riders are really euphoric this year, because they started the Tour de France having a very bad slamming from the French press. In fact, the French press believed that there were no more French cyclists left, and I think this year in the Tour de France they have proved that they're still a force to be reckoned with, and this is one of the best France has had over the last few years, with 3 or 4 riders in the top 10.
Yes, they're having their best tour, in fact, since Bernard Hinault won the race for them back in 1985. Hinault, of course, now works as part of the organisation here, and is continually asked for his autograph by the crowd, who remember him when he won the Tour de France on 5 occasions. Well, they did just over 31 kilometres an hour for the opening hour. They went slightly quicker in the second hour, that was 32, and then 33 in the third hour. So all of the riders here are not exactly pushing themselves as they celebrate leaving the Alps, but of course it will be a very interesting finish, because they run right around the lake here, which is about 12 kilometres, and it's an extremely good finish, even if it is a little bit narrow. So there we are, 51 kilometres from the finish. The riders very shortly now will begin to get twitchy, so we'll take a break.
If you're watching yesterday's programme, you'll remember we took a look at the number of riders who've retired or abandoned so far this tour. 70 have gone, which means that some teams have virtually disappeared from the race. And when that happens, the riders who are left can either get demoralised or, like the TVM crew, just get on with it. TVM started the race with the Regulation 9 riders. For the last week, though, only 3 have been signing on for the daily slog. Bo Hamburger, Jesper Skibby and Dag Otto Lauritsen. Losing 6 riders may not be good for the team, but it makes life a lot easier for the hotel chef.
This is the whole TVM team sitting here speaking Scandinavian and having a nice dinner. Only the strong Vikings are left, you know. It's nice. We have 1 mechanic each, and we have 1 soigneur each, and so we have a lot of personnel, you know. So it's
Luxury.
Yeah, it's luxury for us.
With only 3 riders to cater for, life's easier for the backup staff too. And even with some of them sent home, it's time to wash the team car. Back inside the restaurant, they're washing down the evening meal. Côte de Rhône and Lager aren't usually recognised as sports drinks, but then there is something for this trio to celebrate. The fact that on a Dutch team, the only survivors are 2 Danes and a Norwegian.
So we are not in Paris still, but I think the Scandinavians are stronger than the Dutch guys. We take it easy the first weeks, you know, and then we let the Dutch guys work, and then in the end we come, you know.
But no matter how smart or strong they are, 3 riders can't hope to control a race or execute much in the way of strategy.
I mean, we have 3 guys, it's not so easy.
We try to hang on.
Yeah, and we're sitting in the front as much as possible. We have 1 stage win with Bo, so, I mean, not many teams have a stage win, so we have done pretty well, I think.
But even with 2/3 of his teammates gone, a stage win wasn't enough to get Bo his own room.
You're down to 3 guys, and 2 you still share.
We have to, huh?
We have to, because it's too expensive to have too many rooms, but we are nice friends anyway, so it's good to keep the habit up, you know.
You would go along with that?
I have to, huh?
Otherwise you beat me up, eh?
After such a tough tour, just making Paris will be an achievement. But these guys have thoughts of a final flourish.
Me and Bo is going to make the sprint for Jeb, and maybe he win the stage, you know? And then a big party in the evening.
There's going to be a big party. Stage win on the Champs-Élysées, Jesper?
He's good enough to do it.
It's hard to do a sprint with 2 riders, you know, but we have to find out in our way. We'll look for you. We'll look for you on the Champs-Élysées. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Gary, but you know there are a lot of riders who'll want to win that last stage in Paris, so Jesper Skibby better watch out. So this one man has taken a lead in front of a massive crowd as we come onto the outskirts of the lake. It's about 16 kilometres to go to the finish. Francois Simon is the man who's broken clear. He went clear, 25 kilometres to go, and he's at the moment riding around about 200, 250 metres in front of the whole field. And we've got Gerard Rouet on the left of our picture, Jean-Francois Bernard. These are the 2 Benesto riders, teammates of Miguel Indurain, setting the pace and receiving a lot of help indeed from the Kelme squad here, who are one of the small teams in Spain, but they've had a tremendous Tour de France this year. And this rider here, Francois Simon, whose brothers have all won stages in the Tour de France, and in the case of Pascal, worn the yellow jersey as well, now trying to get in his 2nd tour a stage win too.
Well, that would be fantastic for the Simon family if he could actually step up there with his brothers, because they've been a fantastic cycling family. All 4 of them. I raced actually with 2 of them. Régis, who won a stage in the Tour de France in 1985, the afternoon after Stephen Roach won the stage to the top of the Col de l'Aubisque. And then also Jérôme Simon, the other brother who won a stage to Strasbourg a couple of years ago when he was riding for the Z squad.
But, you know, Paul, looking down there, we just saw the helicopter shot. It looked to me as though, in fact, poor old Francois, this little drag here is hurting him. We're now beginning to swing onto the far side of the lake. You can't see the finishing line, but it is actually on the other side of the lake, on the right shoulder of the riders. This is a very, very pretty area of France, and the Tour hasn't been in this region before. It's hard to imagine, after 81 Tours de France, that there is anywhere that this race has not been, but this is one of the areas. And the attack has gone now from Motorola, and it looks to me as though we have, in fact, it's Michel Derniche who's gone clear.
Michel Derniche, the Belgian rider on the Motorola squad, has tried to jump clear. You can see at the back there, he's still got his raincoat, because the riders have had a very wet day today. It's been raining, it's been dry, so they haven't got rid of these raincoats, and they've got them in their back pockets. But you see, actually, Derniche has made a very good move here, and he's straight away almost half bridged the gap across to Francois Simon. But I would think that the main field aren't going to let him get too far ahead, because they're extremely organised at the moment. You've got the Benesto squad obviously doing their work, because they're the team of the yellow jersey, but also the Polti team are working and the Kelme squad are working. And you can see that Derniche's attack there was almost in vain, because the moment when he is going to catch Francois Simon, he's going to be caught by the whole field.
And he's going to be swept aside too, because the Polti team have brought that race up very, very quickly indeed. Now their answer is they want their little man Jamaldin Abdou-Japarov up here, and so too has the Chazal team taken part in the big close down there. And they're looking to their sprinter, Pascal Chanteur or Arturus Kasputis perhaps, to get the stage win that they would so richly like in the Tour.
And this is Eddie Seigneur going clear, the man that I like a great deal.
Seigneur taking his chance to go on a slight rise. It's still a long way around this lake. It's a very big lake, even if it is very beautiful. And again, Eddie now just checking to see if he's got the gap. Is it worth going on? Because at this stage of the race, you can't put in too many efforts like this and have anything left at all for the finish. It's more or less give all and just hope.
Well, he's hoping at the moment. What a great move that was. He waited just for the right moment. Always at a time in the race, the riders will slow down. All you need is 1 kilometre an hour for the team to slow down, and then you can launch a counter-attack. And Eddie Seigneur has got a great gap at the moment, about 100 metres. He's fighting every time the road goes uphill a little bit. You can see him get out of the saddle to lift the pace again. What a fantastic physique this rider has too. He's an extremely strong rider, a rider who I think is going to be excellent in the classics when he has had a couple more years in the professional ranks, and he's not going to crack at the moment, so they're really going to have to put the pressure on behind if they want to pull him back. 5 kilometres to go for Eddie Seigneur.
He's got a lot of power in those big legs. He's not a great climber, but he is certainly a strong rider over roads like this. And still, it's the 2 Polti boys down there who are being left to do all of the chasing. And if it's just the 2 of them, remember, they've been doing a lot of chasing in these last 2 kilometres. They may well be tired, and it may be necessary for help to come from another quarter. And you notice that Eddie Seigneur is hugging the side of the road because very often you can get lost in the crowd line. He's moving across to the right now because of the angle of the road up ahead. But if you ride to the far right or left of the road, well, the riders can lose sight of you.
Well, the pressure's on in the main field now, but there's no organised chase as there was before. The work being left up to the Polti team, and it won't be very far back down there in that line of riders at the green jersey of Jamaluddin Abdudaparov will be looking to place himself for the final sprint to the line.
See the movement in the big peloton now as a surge of riders come through from the right-hand side. It's so often the case you work really hard to get to the front of the bunch, and then on the other side of the road, a big surge of riders, and you find yourself sitting at the back again. 4 kilometres to go for Eddie Seigneur. They haven't won a stage since Chris Bourman won the opening prologue time trial for them at Lille in northern France.
It looked like it was almost over for Eddie Seigneur now, and in fact it was the Motorola squad on the front there doing the chasing to bring it all back, and that was in fact Alvaro Mejia, who's had a disappointing Tour de France. That little man there in the blue helmet there finished 4th in the Tour de France last year, and he may well have been trying to pull it back to give Frankie Andreu a chance, and this looks very much like Jesper Skibbe, one of the Danish riders who hasn't had a win in this year's Tour de France.
Indeed, one of the few. He's getting a bit of a complex because he's a great character. He won a stage in last year's Tour de France, Jesper Skibbe. Well, he told us he wanted to try and win the stage on the Champs-Élysées tomorrow, but he must feel his legs are fresh today. He's gone clear. He's pulled forward 2 men. If they would just come through and give him a hand, they might start working together.
Vyacheslav Ekimov from the Word Perfect team is going clear. This man has been trying in the first part of the Tour de France to get a victory. In fact, he's a fantastic finisher, and if he could just get 50 metres lead, it would be very difficult for the main field to catch him. That's 3 kilometres to go, I think, for Ekimov, who at the moment has about 50 metres lead over the rest.
This is what he did, Paul, on the run-in to Futuroscope 2 weeks ago, and the unlucky man from Russia was wiped out at just about 50 or 60 metres from the line. He's a former world champion at the pursuit, and he's a former world team and Olympic team pursuit champion. Speed is his trademark. He's tremendously quick when he gets clear, and now he's going to have to settle in and get on to riding at around about 50 to 54 kilometres an hour if he's going to hold off this field all the way to the line.
Well, there are very few men in the world can actually hold off a raging peloton as they get towards the finish, but Vyacheslav Ekimov is certainly one of those. At the moment, is still hovering around 50 metres ahead of the main pack, but he's got 2 kilometres to go, and it may well be that he can just hang on. He's got to keep going. He doesn't look over his shoulder at all. He knows that all he has got to do is concentrate on going as quickly as possible and hope for a slight slowing in the main field. It's down now to about 30 metres.
Well, just look at this, the speed of this man. He's superb when he rides at full speed, but the peloton have closed in so quickly. They're going to wipe him again. He's sat up this time. He's looked over his shoulder. He's seen them right behind. Or is he? He's going to keep on going.
He won't stop until they're actually right on his wheel, and he looks over now and realises that it's all over. It was just a one last-ditch effort to try and get clear, but the work's still being done at the front here by the GBMG squad. It may well be that they're thinking about Johan Museo. This is Rolf Sorensen at the front now.
So Sorensen, whose family had an apartment yesterday on top of Alpe d'Huez, they've been delighted with the way he's ridden this year's Tour de France. He's won a stage, but now the attacks have come again.
This is Stephen Swart from New Zealand, had a very tough start to the Tour de France. It was his first return to the Tour de France, having ridden on a British squad, the ANC squad, many years ago when the Tour started in Berlin, but he hasn't got the gap behind him. Looks to me like Flavio Vanzella, the former yellow jersey holder. 1 kilometre to go for the main field.
So now we must watch out for the arrival of the green jersey at the front, unless he is beaten by a surprise breakaway here at the very, very end of it. Because we're sorry about the little bit of picture breakup we've got here. It's because of these live pictures coming from the links up to the helicopter over the race and the trees in the area. But now Girotto is the big boy in the yellow going to the left of our picture. He's previously won 2 stages, one not too far away from here in fact in Switzerland, in Geneva, and now the riders go again on the right of the road. Little Mario Chiesa has launched an attack for Carrera.
Francois Simon is up there as well, coming through, and it's going to be very close when they come to the line if Chiesa can just about hold on.
And we've got Van Zeller in the race too, and Sean Yates is trying to get through in the centre of the picture as well, but there's no sign yet of the green jersey. This is going to be an interesting finish, because it could well be Francois Simon going, but a rush at the end is Jan Zarada, and the green jersey's come from nowhere, and on the line it's going to go to the photo, but it looks to me as though that man, Jamaluddin Abdou-Japarov, just flew out of space there to get right up alongside Jan Zarada on the finishing line. They really are the fastest finishers in the world, and they timed that one to absolute perfection. Well, I would never have given them a chance, not 5 meters from the line, and there they were out of nowhere at the end. And let's have a look at it once more. Here we have Jan Zarada. Watch the man in green though, Jamaluddin Abdou-Japarov. This man in second place there is Martinello. Martinello goes on the right and then up on the inside with a tremendous surge of speed. There's nobody else left in the picture now as the line comes up, and it looks to me as though Jamaluddin Abdou-Japarov gets his second stage win of the Tour. He began with a win at stage number 1, and now he's just 1 day away from the finish in Paris, and he gets his second win. What a great sprint though. And these two men have become great rivals in this year's Tour de France, but friendly rivals when it comes down to these big sprint finishes. Zarada, Martinello and Phil Anderson gets over there. Looks as though he'll be in 4th place, his best finish so far. So in the end, it was a day for the sprinters. Abdou-Japarov just pipping Jan Zarada, Martinello and Phil Anderson getting a fine 4th place. And straight after the finish, Sean Yates, now the only British finisher of the Tour, is with Paul Sherwin.
You know, everybody's asking that. You seem so good this year, and you've said this is going to be your last Tour de France. The big question is, will you come back next year?
I don't think so. I mean, this was a good year for me. Everything worked out fine. It's great. It was coming to England. I got the yellow jersey. I think it's a good note to finish on. You know, I'd hate to ride next year and then have a hard time and not make it to Paris. So I think, you know, I'm going to settle for this one.
What are you going to think tomorrow when you get onto the Champs-Élysées for the last time then, Sean?
It'd be great. I mean, it'd be sad. You know, when I was going up the Alpe d'Huez the other day, I was thinking, oh, this is the last time I'm going up here. But you have to draw a line somewhere, and whenever it happens, it's going to be strange. So I just have to make the most of it.
Before the start of your last Tour de France, did you ever think that you were going to put the yellow jersey on your shoulders?
No, I mean, that's my 11th Tour, and I haven't done it so far, so I had no reason to think I was going to do it this year. But I've had good form this year, and things just came together on the day, and it worked out.
You happy with the tour, the way the Tour went for you?
For me personally, yeah. I mean, the team, we lacked in some departments, but you know, it doesn't always fall into place, and this year's one of those ones. But for me myself, I was very happy.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
And on the podium, claiming the green jersey now, Jamaluddin Abdou-Japarov, all smiles, his second stage win of the race as well. Also, an enormous cheer went up for the King of the Mountains crown tonight, Richard Virenque of France. Overall, though, no change at all. Indurain keeps all of his advantage today. Ugrimov second, Pantani third. Then comes the two Frenchmen, Luc Leblanc and Richard Virenque. And Miguel Indurain on the podium tonight. He's now just 1 day away from his 4th victory in the Tour de France. And the line he's holding, well, that's part of the prize now for our competition, along with the yellow jersey of Miguel, signed by him after he wins this Tour de France tomorrow. What we want you to do is guess the winner of the stage onto the Champs-Élysées. All those who do go into a hat, and the lucky one out will take away the line and the yellow jersey. Here's the telephone number, 0891 44 4444, and you can make your guess until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, it's been a very exciting day here around Lac d'Ampont. I think the people here in the town are going to remember the Tour's first visit for a long time to come. We'll be back for the big finale on the Champs-Élysées tomorrow. Our programme coming to you at 8:45. Until then, goodbye.